Why do we strive for realism in games? It kind of feels like one of those unwritten assumptions that we carry into the medium. Games should strive for better graphics and higher resolutions and more dynamic lighting. But why? What does it add? When I think about the games that I love, even games that I love for how visually stunning they can be, it's never about how much they resemble my reality, but about how much they get me to buy into theirs. Valheim is one of the most visually stunning games that I have ever played. And obviously, it looks nothing like reality. The game's style appears really simple on the surface, but it layers in all these complexities in the weather, in the lighting, in the wind, in the water. It uses its chosen style to create both beauty and visual clarity. To a less extreme extent, I think that Skyrim accomplishes something very, very similar. The game is gorgeous. I would say that the game looks better than almost anything that has come out since. Despite its lower resolution and its imperfect moments, the game knows what it wants to be: a fantasy. And so it makes visual and stylistic choices to help convey that. Other games might have more realistic visuals, however you want to take that, but a perfect one-to-one scanned model of a cave in 4K with realistic mushroom placement and colors is not going to evoke the same feeling as this. I think that we see this the most in older games because they had to. A home computer couldn't handle 4K resolutions or realistic water simulations yet, and so they had to find creative solutions, to find a style, to analyze what they wanted their game to feel like, and then decide how they were going to communicate that to the player. To make choices, to make art. But now, as so many of the limitations that existed on game development have been lifted, for good and for bad, a personal computer is stronger than ever. Hard drives are bigger and cheaper and faster, and the global market for games has exploded. Isn't it true right now that the global market for games is bigger than the markets for movies, television, and music combined? That's so much money, man. Tools like Unreal Engine have made it so easy to make a game that looks good, but with that ease comes standardization. Developers no longer need to solve the problem of balancing realism with hardware. Developers are no longer required to find a style. And games are losing their identity as a result. I really hope... God, I hope that isn't being picked up. Somebody is stomping. Classic upstairs neighbor behavior. This hit me hard recently when I played Ark Survival Ascended. When I tried to play Ark Survival Ascended. ASA is the Unreal Engine 5 port of Ark Survival Evolved. And ASE, that's going to get confusing. I'm going to call them Ascended and Evolved. Evolved is my most played game on Steam by a wide margin. And quite possibly my most played game of all time. I've beaten The Island, Scorched, and Aberration as a solo. I never quite got there on Extinction. That's just a truly absurd ask of a solo player. I loved this game, despite its many flaws. The game first dropped in early access in 2015. There was no world where they could accomplish the scope of what they wanted for the game and push for realism. And so instead, they found a style. The game gets a lot of flack for how its characters look, and yeah, they kind of look like when who was it, that like scientist or whoever made that image of the ideal person to like survive a car accident or whatever. But I think that kind of misses the point. Nothing in this game looks realistic. There's fucking dinosaurs running around and giant floating obelisks in the sky. Oh god, I am so Peglin-pilled. I tried to write obelisk in the script, and I wrote orbelisk. And that made it special. It made it recognizable. It was a sci-fi game, and you could tell that from the first moment that you loaded into the world. And then I tried Ascended, and okay, slight disclaimer here. I'm about to say a lot of really mean things about Ark Survival Ascended, and I just want to be super clear that none of this is directed at the people, like the artists and the developers who are working on the game. I have an immense amount of respect for them. My understanding is that the game had kind of a really troubled development at some points. I mean, that's just been like the history of Ark since Wildcard got bought by Snail Games. Just being clear here that my criticisms are directed at the product and not the people. Cool. This game might be the end boss of Realism Derogatory. They ported the game into Unreal Engine 5, didn't optimize it at all, and then charged full price for it again. And the game runs like shit. I mean, they released this thing 3 years ago now, and I still can't run it on medium settings. I don't have like a supercomputer or anything, but I recently upgraded my graphics card. I can run Baldur's Gate 3 at 120 FPS on max settings and 2K resolution. I should be able to run this game on medium settings. And I'm running the game on an NVMe SSD. I disabled all of the clouds and fog, and I had to turn on frame generation, and I still only get like 30 to 40 frames a lot of the time. That's ridiculous. And yeah, whatever, they added kind of a bunch of things that I like. I like the baby dinos that are running around. The lighting's really pretty. The story cutscenes are really nice. I like kind of how it makes all of the maps in the game more cohesive together. I think the file size is technically smaller than Ark Survival Evolved was, which, like, hey, low bar. If you installed all the content for that game, I think it was like 600 gigabytes or something incredibly stupid. But the game lost all of the character that made it unique. The ugly, off-putting characters were replaced with these, like, smooth, perfect models. The grimy sci-fi atmosphere of the original game has been scrubbed clean, replaced with these bloated UIs and immersion-breaking, microtransaction-filled skill trees. Like, that's not a bit. They added this skill tree to the game where you constantly get all of these updates in pop-ups telling you that you are, like, progressing toward points you can spend on it, but the only way that you can spend points on this skill tree is by buying the DLC that lets you. Like, what the hell are we talking about? The game lost all of its visual clarity with this graphical update. When I'm playing Ascended, it feels like I need glasses. Which is definitely in part because of all of the settings that you have to turn on or turn down in order to run the game, but also because of the changes in design intention that went into the game. The aesthetic choices of the original game were designed to create clarity in its visuals. There were strong distinctions in the color palettes between creatures and terrain and plant life and players. But everything in ASA just kind of reads as mush. It seems like this is partially because of how they are rendering the game, which, hey, take this with a grain of salt. I read it on Reddit, because that's the only place you can find any information now. But it seems like in engine, they are rendering the game at 50%, and then using tools in Unreal Engine to, like, scale it back up to 100 in post, in order to make the game run well, but, like, it makes it look like shit. It creates all of these grainy lines and mushy textures that make it impossible to tell what you're looking at unless you walk right up to it. The visual clarity of the original game might be in there somewhere, but it's been lost under these layers and layers of extra processing. They've left their community behind. The top post on the community page on Steam right now is about how to use the command line in-game to disable all of these bloated, unoptimized graphical features in order to make the game run. And when you do that, it looks like this. This is how people are playing their game. In their pursuit of realism and beauty and money, they've ended up here, forcing players to interact with their game in a way that I can't imagine they intended. Ark isn't the only game that suffers from this, not by a long shot. Tons of games are being made right now that just drag and drop all the best-looking features and models so that they can make their games good, without any regard for a cohesive style or optimization, leading to ballooning file sizes and low frames. Games as products instead of games as art. I want to sit down, but my stool is propping everything up. Ark probably isn't the best game to make this point, and there are still tons of games coming out that still have style and verve and heart. It's just so frustrating. It makes me sad. Like, I wanted to make a video this week about how much I love Ark, and how I was about to go on this journey to get the Tame Every Creature achievement. But I don't think I can do that anymore. I don't think I can play this game. I don't want to engage with their microtransactions or their premium content or their optimization issues. I don't want to give them my time. They haven't earned it. I don't know. The world we live in is pretty rough right now, and I sure as hell don't know how to fix it. And sure, yeah, like, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism or whatever, but if I'm gonna consume media and give them my time and my money and show up in the metrics that they care about, then I want to show up under a game that I like and that I think deserves it. So I guess I'm gonna go play Valheim, or I'll keep working my way through Hollow Knight. I'm actually really close to 100%ing Half-Life Alyx. Doing the gnome thing right now. Wow. This one ended on a downer, huh? Well, like and subscribe if you enjoy a downer ending. Thanks. Bye. Ugh.